being destroyed one machine at a time. Because you are the one, Trinity, be my infinity. Never let me go far beyond the flesh that holds us. Let's encode our code into the cheat code. We so encrypted the way we slip in and out of spaces without folks knowing our IP address. Hell, we're intellectual property with the patent and the copyright. We so right that we could be white, labeled, franchise. Hell, baby, we're brand new to this side of love, that free love. That you're not my property, I don't own you type. Cause I'm honored to know you, to be in your presence is a gift. Because you don't owe me anything, and I don't owe you either. But I thank you for your time. I really want you to be my person.
I am a lover, come and discover. Foxes and wolves and birds and nests. When we in our zone, yeah, we both can rest. Gonna rest. Joy and pain, sunshine and rain. Joy and pain, sunshine. And since it's gonna rain, we gon' be alright.
Chillin', enjoy the way I grew in pain. I wanna laugh regardless, it's a game. Let's play, let's stay, let's get high. All up in the stuff like we stars in the sky. Light signs, love lines, written by the hands of God at one time, two times.
One time for love and vision, visions and will. Two times for love and needless. I
Tell me, Neo, will you come back for me? Or let me sleep in a bed of lies because you're too afraid to face your fears with us? There's no need to fight each other. Too many secret agents sent out to destroy us. We're not each other's enemy. We love God, life, time, and our family. Well, not all of them, but you know the ones that stood in the fire with you. Them Shadrach, Meshachs, and Abednegos. Our number one goal is to be free of all the negativity. Ain't no bad vibes around here. There's no need to fake it around me. Because I know what it's like to feel like you can fly, but the system keeps trying to put you in boxes and cages. But we eagles soar anyways. We stand for something. We only fall on our knees to give thanks that we made it out the matrix. I mean, I said all that because, like, that's what I think about when I think about love. Like that type of love that you need a partner, it has a partner. We're Neo and Trinity, baby. We know each other even though we haven't met each other. In this life, hell, I need somebody I can get high with, fly with, catch a vibe with, save the world.
All right, y'all. Welcome to the Bottom Up Podcast. I'm your host, Serica, the best poet in the business. And we here talking all things black culture, black history, black politics, the economics behind it. And today's guest, we talking about the black church. So y'all make sure y'all tune in. And as always, to start our show off, we always start with a little history. Because if you don't know where you're going, you got to know where you're coming from. Y'all cue that up.
Being raised in Poppin, I just remember that it was a bean picking town. People coming from different areas and working on the farm, picking beans, peppers, squash.
And I lived in Newtown. It was a little place, it was really a farming place because they had quarters at the end of my street and they had some across the street. Now we always owned our home, but we had dirt roads and the school would close during the winter months for you could gather harvest, pick beans and stuff. And we would have to go to school during the summertime.
When I first came to Pompano, I worked out at they called call it the migrant school. And it was a camp where the children, parents worked on the farm. It was a school, I guess, the children came in from the farm, you know, to go to class. There were 6 classrooms. We were on double session. We sometimes had to go to the farms to get the children to come to class.
I came down here in 1943. I came down here as a soldier. Well, we were about 250 black soldiers here in Boca Raton. All the rest of them was white. I used to come down here to Pompano and I seen men running. I said, what the fun these men running for? If they get caught from a certain time during the day, they would lock them up because they're supposed to be on some white man farm picking beans or doing something like that.
This house been standing ever since I was born, and I was born in 1952, and Betsy came through in I think 1960 something, and all the storms that came through his house still standing. You know, and we went to the farm and picking beans and all that good stuff. Cause we was sharecroppers back in the day, and we did a lot of bean picking and stuff like that.
Father was a sharecropper. Early in life, we lived in quarters, Cap Campbell quarters. Later on, at a young age, in adolescent, my father was able to build a home on 10th Avenue in Newtown there.
My daddy, Joe Goodman, Joseph Goodman, he was one of the first farmers here. He farmed his own land.
Mom and Dad was sharecroppers, right? And farm work that was all that we knew. They knew, so it was very easy to. At that time, you know, they were sharecropping with different growers, and if you was working for a particular grower, he became like your master. So they was farming with and for the Blunts, and each grower had their own section of the town where all their laborers lived. So I grew up in a place on the east side of Pompano called Blunt Quarters because the quarter was named after the owner.
Early in life, we didn't have any streets. We had sand roads, and on 10th Avenue, where I lived most of my life, they dug a line for water, and digging a line for water there, you had got stuck. So the city bought rock and covered up there, and we had to take shovels and picks and smooth it down in order to make the road passable.
You know, to be honest with you, at the time, I didn't know no better, so it was accepted. It was later on in years in life that I found out, you know, that it wasn't right. But Mama saw fit that since we was missing so much time to stay out of school to the other division, but she saw fit to move us out of his quarters, we call them migrant quarters, over to Miss Eli's, a black owner who owned some apartments, so we could go to school.
We used to go pick huckleberries nearly every day. We'd go in the woods and then we'd sell them for 10 cents a quart. A quart of huckleberries for 10 cents, which was good money then.
I had a mother. She was born. She had 3 children, and she kept other people's children so they could go to work.
I started first grade at Blanche Ely High School. Okay, even though it's a high school, actually I used to go first through 12th grade. I went there from first grade through 9th grade. Left there and went to Nova High School. I was in the 3rd graduating class at Nova High School.
When she was growing up, they had to, they could only go, they had Pompano Colored School, which they went to, I don't know, 6th grade or something, but when they got ready to go to high school, there was no high school here. They had to leave and go to Miami. and they went to Booker T. Washington in Miami. But there wasn't even a high school here, a lot of dirt roads, and it's completely different, you know. I was a little bit disappointed because I wanted to come back to the chickens in the yards and all that's going now. Well, you know.
We had to walk to the post office, which was quite a distance to get the mail. And then there was very little activities for children to participate in.
My mom was really one of the first ones to start a sandwich truck in the bean field. And some of my best time was spent in the bean field. We had some good times in the bean field. We had some good times during hurricane. She was a strong black woman that instilled in us to do the best that we could. Always do to be our best. She was one of the first ones that went to Collier City and built a house, her own home.
Most houses had front porches, and people always sat on the front porch because someone was always watching. Someone was always sitting on the front porch. As you passed by, you say good evening, good morning, and if you did anything before you got back home, your parents knew all about it because everybody down that whole line would have told them.
Just on Hammondville Road alone, there was about 10 bars, including nightclubs and beer joints and this kind of thing.
All right, y'all. Listen. So I always like to start off the podcast talking about the history because so much of what I'm doing with this podcast is on the shoulders of those that came before us. So I found that video, believe it or not, I found that video on YouTube, and I recognize a lot of the people on there. So I felt the need to share it because it was talking about the Pompano that our elders and grandparents remember. So important for us to, start there because it's from there that we build upon. And I wanted to make sure I share it. I don't know how many people have seen it, but, it's actually much longer. I cut it down as much as possible, and I probably could have cut it a little more, but I tried to capture as much as possible. So I'm pretty sure Pompano used to be a small town. It's emerging to be a bigger town, but I wanted to make sure I started that. And while I'm starting that, just to segue, y'all, this is our guest for tonight. Okay,
what's up,
Pastor
everybody?
Rich.
Yes.
Speak to the people, Pastor Rich.
Listen, I am blessed to be a part of this. Thank you, Serica, for having me as one of the first of many, and just to be a part of this conversation about Pompano, its history, where we are now, and actually where we're going.
Yeah. Very important, and I'm being very specific about and intentional about inviting people on here because these conversations require us to have them from a Black perspective, but also a worldly perspective because Pompano has the world's attention. I don't know if people know that.
Listen, Pompano is on the map.
Yeah,
whether it is entertainment, whether it's travel and tourism, but here in South Florida, when it comes to economics and development, Pompano is on everybody's mind.
Yeah. And this is why we have to have these conversations, y'all. We got to make sure we talk like this because Pompano, what we scream when Black folks scream Pompano, we don't say Pompano. We say Exit 36. That's what we say. So that's our culture.
Yeah.
Exit 36 is a culture, and I'm so impressed by our ability to keep redefining what our culture is and who we are in Pompano. You hear the elders talk about it used to be a bean picking.
Can you imagine that some of what we see now used to be a farm, or that it just wasn't as built up like it used to be?
Like
when I hear some of even the elders in my family talk about picking beans, picking strawberries, and like in school, if we let schools teach us history, we think some of that is like centuries ago.
Yeah.
But 1 century ago, our people was actually picking beans, walking to school, doing all these other things. And I think that Pompano has such rich history that has not yet been unfolded.
Yeah. You know, will you ever pick beans?
I never pick beans.
You never pick? I pick beans.
I never had what I think is really a privilege.
Yeah.
You know, like when you from Pompano, you be like, man, I didn't pick no beans.
Yeah, I pick beans. I pick oranges, but I pick beans because my grandmother on my father's side in Arcadia, Florida, she had an acre and a half of land that she ran that garden herself. She lived to be 106 years old. So when you got suspended from school, and on the weekend, ain't no sleeping in.
Yeah.
No, the grits hot at 6 o'clock. Wake up.
Wake up.
Get these hot grits and come out to the field. You know. So I had the privilege and the honor of working in the field with my grandmother, and then they would go to these other fields and pick beans too. They would have a bean picking where you could come in and pick buckets and barrels of beans, and you pay $20 and you pick as much as you want, and you pick them. We would pick them, and then they would shell them and bag them and freeze them. My grandma had a deep freezer full of
beans and
we
other
didn't go
things.
to the grocery store like that. We didn't go to the grocery store
Georgia
like
Groceries,
that.
Saxon Wall, you didn't go up there.
Yeah. But I mean, I know what it's like to do it from, you know, that's just the way of living for my family. But in Pompano, no, I didn't experience that. My grandfather worked in Blunt's quarters, lived in Blunt's quarters and Jones quarters, and he picked beans here in Pompano. So, you know, I know it from that point in Pompano.
And I've just heard stories of like my parents and my grandparents, you know, talking about those experiences, and I'm like, my mother and my father talking about whether they was going to go to school one day or go pick beans.
Yeah.
And I'm like, as a child, like, all we knew growing up was kind of you go to school.
You go to school.
But then,
they didn't have the choice.
Right.
They didn't have the choice. And, you know, as you learn about the history of Pompano, they would close the school down so they can go to the field, you know? So
isn't that almost like, that almost sounds like a prison, not a school.
I mean, well, that's what it is. You know, when we talk about, you know, Black Americans, and I'm very specific when I talk about Black people in Pompano. I'm all for diversity and inclusion, but I have to be very specific when I talk about Black people in Pompano because there's disproportionate and unfair. There's a lot of things that Black people in Pompano had to overcome.
Absolutely.
You know, so I have to talk about it and make sure I'm being very specific because we got to build us up to be able to be a part of conversations when we talk about equality. We got to get some equity first,
absolutely.
You know.
Please, let's talk about equity more than we talk about equality.
Yes. And so, you know, equality allows for us to kumbaya and come together with our brothers and sisters of other nationalities, but equity get down to the finances, the money, the things that we need to move forward. But I say that to say that, like, you know, Pompano and that generation that were picking beans, you think about it, they closed the school down for them to go to the field. So that is missed education for a generation.
Yeah.
And financial literacy was not being taught, or they weren't being educated about that. And then you move a generation forward, and they were restricted from participating in generational wealth tooling with redlining.
Yes.
So we have two generations that were so far behind from building any type of generational wealth. And then here we are, a generation that know, but also a generation that has failed to apply what we know. So we're in a space right now where we have a window, in my opinion, to apply what we know, educate and empower our teens and our future generations to continue pick up the baton and keep moving forward. Now that's gonna require. Now we're gonna get into it. Now, Pastor, we gonna get into it. Okay.
Here we go, y'all. Y'all praying for me.
That's gonna require a lot of the older generation and the gatekeepers and the toll booths that's in our community.
Toll booths, that's a new one.
That's what I call them. You know, y'all get used to hearing that. Toll booths. Toll booths, let me tell you what toll booths are. We know what gatekeepers are, but toll booths work both ways. They don't only keep people from getting in, they also charge people for getting out. So having that toll booth work both ways. I don't care where you going. Which way you going.
I hear
pay
you.
me my money
before
you go.
Wow. Okay. All right.
You know, and those are set up. Now I will say this too. For a generation in a time, gatekeepers were needed. For a generation in time, gatekeepers were needed.
And I still think gatekeepers in the sense
in some spaces
are still needed.
In some spaces, but I think they
healthy
need to
gatekeepers. I think fair gatekeepers, and
they don't need to be the only infrastructure. They are the only infrastructure for our community. You know, and when I say, you know, our community, we have this, and this isn't just Pompano. This is, you can go to any black community across America, and you are partner.
Yo.
What's up, my brother?
What's up, partner? Pastor Rich, what's up, bro?
What's good, DJ Sko?
Yo.
Keeping it busy, man. Keeping it busy, man. Glad to be here with y'all on Monday. Y'all go ahead. Y'all was into something. I'm just observing.
Okay. Yeah, but you know, some of us have gotten to the point where we like power. We don't want to let it go, even if we're not effective in our position.
Absolutely.
This, you know,
power is addictive. You know, this idea. And I hate to go completely biblical so early, but even back to the book of Genesis, it was that sense of power that led us to eat of the forbidden fruit. Because Satan deceived us to say, hey, if you eat that fruit, God doesn't want you to eat that fruit, because if you eat it, then you'll be just like him. It is that sense of being over and being in control and being, you know, just being at the top that feeds all of our egos. And when you have a person that's in power that's not healthy, that is not whole in themselves, and that sees that position as something that can only feed their ego and their agenda, a community and even a generation is in trouble.
Yeah. And that has been, in my opinion, one of the issues we have in our community with younger people stepping up and being a part of what's going on within our socioeconomic status. You know, when you're blocked from doing certain things in the community and you're not, you know, being guided. You know, we have to get to the point now where our elders are our counsel. Because they have the relationships. They know what Mr. Such and Such, who been in position for who 80, 70 years old, they know him. They went to school with him, so they could tell you a little something about
probably
him.
Was the nanny to one or two of their kids.
They know him. You know, my grandmother was a nanny to the Blunts family, different families in Pompano, and those things are not something for us to be ashamed of. Those are things that we have to now come to our elders and say, hey, guide me. But when we talking progress in the future, we have to be realistic. None of us guaranteed tomorrow. But when we go to looking at age and progression, we gotta really have that conversation from a community standpoint. Is the chances of you being here? Like we gotta have that conversation.
Our country is dealing with that right now with our president. And regardless of what side of politics you're on, I think it is reasonable that we look at our president and kind of think, is he at the right, not just his age, but his health, but does he have the right mindset to be leading a country that is at average half his age? Because he's leading from an ideology that might not even resonate with the majority of this country, but he's the president.
So listen, you know, when it comes to the president, and I don't like, honestly, when it comes to the president, those positions, federal positions and different things, you understand, and I think all of us need to understand how the federal level don't affect us as much as what happens on the local level, right? But when we talk about, you know, right now the presidency of the United States is a joke. It is a joke.
In many ways.
It is a joke. Like the punchline keep writing themselves. Like you don't even have to, I could be a comedian and just focus on them. Joe Biden, in my opinion, does not represent the future generations of America. He does not.
I would absolutely agree with that.
He does not. And not only that, that administration is not hearing that generation.
You all know what my thoughts is. Biden is one of the last Mohicans of the history of the Democratic Party.
Yeah, but you know what? I promise when I see him talking, I say, you know what? I would prefer Mitt Romney. I promise, and I would think we would have been in a much better position if Mitt Romney, he's a Republican, but think about the other Republican you have.
Yes.
You know, and then, that whole party affiliation and party loyalty, we need to stop pledging allegiance. Black people need to stop pledging allegiance to political parties.
Agree.
We need to be interest driven, and we need to go and talk to the people who are speaking to our interests. I don't care if you blue party, tea party, brown party, whatever. If you are going to listen to what it is that we have and be held accountable.
Yes.
I don't care if we got to vote you out every 2 years till we find somebody. Let's figure out. We're going to keep it going till we find somebody. And unfortunately, because black people have been loyal to the Democratic Party take us for a game, a joke. They don't listen to us.
And in many areas, our vote, the predominantly black vote, is already factored into the campaign. Which is why you don't, and I hate to say this, but in Broward politics, you will see more engagement from others. And I told somebody,
when you say others, let me say it. What
those that are less melanated than the majority of us that's on this line.
Our palm color family members. Okay.
Our white counterparts do actually try to do more bridge building and listening to an agenda than sometimes I feel that our own does.
Because we vote a lot. I think
80% of the time, you're going to catch the ear of the pink people quicker than the brown people.
Yes. And I'm like,
bad because we all deal with politicians and politics and, city officials on the local level, all, us three. So I'm just talking about us three right now. And my closest liaison into all of that, even though I got good friends, just happen to not be the same complexion as I am. Erica, you got a line inside that's pink.
Yeah.
And Rick, I know.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And they will definitely they'll take the things that we try to put into place and take them to the table so the people that's our color before we can, because the people that's our color won't even give us to sit down.
Yeah. And that's part of that gatekeeper, older generation keeping that power. That's what happens. And the thing is,
federal level with Joe Biden, I'm not a fan of his presidency, but he was the vaccination, and that's what happened. Trump was the pandemic, and we needed something to cure the pandemic immediately. He was already there. He was positive.
Yeah.
Put it up right now. Okay. Now listen, they didn't say it's going to prevent us from catching it. They said it's going to make it lesser when we catch it.
Herd immunity. Yeah.
Exactly.
That herd immunity.
We needed that right then.
Yeah. I mean, we have in this country, and let's just talk locally, we got to make some decisions that are benefiting us as a people, as our family members. And if we don't do that, we're going to continue this cycle of us not being heard.
Yeah.
And I have the next 3 generations in my household, 23, 16, and 3 years old.
Yeah.
So I have to have a conversation about the future, because every day in my house, they talking back to me.
Yeah.
You know, they're
Yeah.
showing me and telling me what it is that they need.
That's one of the criticisms that I have to any elected official that sits on the dais and makes decisions only about the present.
Yeah.
Because it is as if you already come out of the gate disenfranchising 1 to 2 generations to come. Much of what I even see in our present city, in its present condition, I don't just put the weight of that on those that currently sit on this dais. Some of that blame has to go back.
Oh, it's enough blame to go around.
10 years.
It's enough to go around. I'm telling you, when you know, I've been on this this activism, political stuff here in Pompano for the past, I'd say about 9-10 years, okay? And the first 5, I was completely in observation mode.
Really?
Completely. I mean, I was standing up and speaking because those are just things I'm passionate about.
DJ Sko, Serica has never been in an observation only.
I was just in observation. I hadn't even turned up. Like, I ain't even turned up yet. That's the thing. I ain't even turned up yet.
She lean that head to the side like, what? And it's on the pop again because I mean, you just said something. You probably don't know that she know what she know already. And she said the wrong thing. She, all right.
Cause I like for you to. I like for people.
She always been present.
Right.
Been the place. She always been the present.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let me say this. My meter wasn't all the way up.
All right.
I was just turning it up. You know, I attribute that to the fact that I didn't know a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I will tell you, when I first came, the big argument going on during that time was the lawsuit between the city of Pompano and the county for the CRA.
Yeah.
Right? So that's when I moved back around. I'm getting involved, right?
Yeah.
So I go to the people that look like me, y'all, because I trust them.
Yeah.
Off site. I trust. If it's a meeting or something and it's about our community, I'm going to people that look like me. Now listen, when I go to y'all, what y'all show me, that's what I'm going to run with, right? That's what I'm going to run with, right? Because I'm like a dog with a bone. Don't tell me if you don't want me to go in on it. Now, if I'm coming to us, when I came, the community was on, oh, we don't want the CRA. We don't want that. We don't want the CRA. So guess what I say?
We don't want the CRA.
You know, we want to get rid of the CRA. I'm saying it because those who were mentoring and teaching and in leadership at that moment, that's what they wanted. That generation, that's what they wanted. So I have to fall in line, especially coming up. I can't come and just stream something else. No, let me push this forward.
And especially if Reverend up there saying it too.
It's at the church.
Right.
It's at the church.
Here it is.
It's at the church. You hear me? It's at the church. You can't say nothing. They have it at the church. And I believe, and that is such a political pundit when you have any community meeting in the church. You have now already.
That's just to keep y'all blessed.
That's it. And the thing is, y'all.
That's a secret.
The thing.
Hey,
let's have this one at the church.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the problem. That's the problem. But I say, we didn't know. I didn't know then that losing and going against losing the CRA at that point meant we were foregoing as a community, the Northwest District, over $200 million in TIF money that will come back to this community for redevelopment purpose. That was my future and my children's future in participating in the redevelopment in this community, which then we settled because Mark Bogan, Commissioner Bogan, oh, we got $10 million for you. We're going to take $10 million and let go over $200 million. Mind you, that generation led that charge. Be it for whatever reason, personal, but on paper, it does not make sense. It was a bad decision. We lost opportunity. We lost financial resources that could have poured into this community, and more of us
Yes.
people, younger people, could have came around and negotiated proper contracts and agreements to build more millionaires and generational wealth in this
Yeah.
community. We lost that.
And that is the danger of having gatekeepers. One is you have a certain level of trust that you had, that I had, that anybody coming into a community that has, as we call, the elders. You know, whether it's in your own family, it is the elders in the community, it is the elders in church. I think, you know, like that term elders just cross lines all over the place. But whenever you go into a space and there are elders, there is a level of trust that is kind of given off right. And then we buy into whatever they have bought into.
Right.
Challenge of that is we don't know who brought them.
Oh.
And so we just taking what's being said and, you know, put out there, and it's in the church.
Yeah.
and there are others that have brought into it. And we as a community, how do we, I don't know, vet gatekeepers? How do we make sure that the gatekeepers still on the right side of history?
But you know what's the problem with gatekeepers is they like to remain anonymous until you get in their way. Like it's not like a billboard that you can say, okay, if you want to talk, these are the people you go and talk to. If you want, they like to remain anonymous. You don't know till you cross their path. When you cross their path and you veer into a you tapping into my pot. That's my pot. And then that's when you get them. You know, they get all up in and now they know your name. You know. This is so important moving forward that we address these things. And we laugh about them because what else you gonna do?
Yeah.
You know, what else you gonna do? I'm saying it, and I'm using this podcast and platform to make sure we say the things that we need to be saying so that you're aware that, you know, when I say New Pompano is the new generation.
I got text messages like about that. Somebody asked me, what is the New Pompano? And I said, have you been following what's going on? It is a play on words. Like, of course, the city limit line is probably not going to move, but this Pompano that you know now is not going to be the same in 5-10 years.
No. Listen, and the thing is, and I wanted to get to this too. I asked this question. I wrote this question down, and I want to ask you this from a black church perspective, because that's why we're here to talk. You're here to talk about the black church, because the black church sure got a role in this, right?
Yes.
Past, present, and future.
Yeah.
How can the black church in Pompano, let's be specific, be effective in reference to this new Pompano, new downtown that's being built?
So I think that the black church must, one, have a listening ear to its constituents first, but then also have a listening ear to the things that are coming. And it can't just be a one-sided. And we have to be able to help facilitate conversations. I think that the grace that's on the church right now, and I'm saying this, and I've tried to walk in a way where it is not just clergy that needs to be heard, but it is everyone that is within that community needs to be represented at tables. So the church having the historical privilege of being the go-to first, we have to be mindful that when we go to the table that we bring somebody else, even if they have a different perspective, so that we can start gaining back our currency in the community. Isn't holding political meetings, it's trust. And the community doesn't trust us sometimes because we are the only ones at a table coming back with something that seemingly only benefits us.
Yeah.
And then when the community sees us out front, they can't separate our convictions from how we're profiting. But because sometimes we are the only one at the table.
Yeah.
But when we can start bringing others in and not putting the church's agenda first, but putting the community's agenda first. Our space and place in the future of New Pompano is to facilitate meetings and conversation, not to always try to be a gatekeeper or to be a decision maker.
I like that. I like that. I need you to make sure you put those things into play so that moving forward, you know, the black church is effective. Because church numbers and population going down as far as people going to church, and that's not just black churches. That's all over. People ain't up in them churches no more. So
why though? It is. And I don't try to answer this question in a vacuum, right? Like, I can't answer the question why people don't go to church because I still go. Clearly, I pastor. You got to ask people that don't go.
Right.
And those people will be honestly and tell you it is a trust issue. It is what they have seen on the news, what they have seen locally. It is a major trust issue with the community and the church. And two, it is the battle of whether or not it's relevant. Whether or not, if I can have a relationship with God, maybe in absence of the church. But what other benefit does the church give me?
Yeah.
And I'm wrestling with this as a pastor, and many of my colleagues too, is how can we present something to our community that doesn't just help them spiritually, but it helps them economically, that it helps them with their families.
So Travell, hey Travell, what's up, brother? Travell say it's definitely a trust issue for him.
Oh yeah.
You know, for me.
What's up, Wiggins?
for me, it is. It's the prosperity teaching, preaching.
Yeah.
And you the only one prospering, Pastor. My bills is beating me up.
Yeah.
I was to a church, and I'm not gonna say this church's name here in Pompano.
Call them out. No.
I went to this church in Pompano, and I was going faithfully at the time in my 20s.
Yeah.
And I remember this, but he did two things, so I got to speak to the good things too. This pastor spoke, and he told me, you should smile more. Now, people have been telling me that for years, even as a child, I should smile more. But he told me that, but he also prophesied to me and said something to me, and it's been true ever since, you know, that he said it. But I went to a sermon, church one Sunday, his church, but another time, and they said they was doing the announcements. They was like, you know, we got the pastor anniversary coming up, you know, and we want the pastor to have a really good anniversary, show him that we love him, and we want all the members of the church, you know, to go ahead and sow a seed of $1,000 so the pastor can get the Bentley that he always wanted.
Oh my.
You know, so I looked at because I was like really thinking about sowing a seed before they said what that seed was.
Yeah.
You know, I want to show my appreciation to the pastor. I'm in the church, he prophesies, and he short.
Yeah.
But when I looked at my bank account,
you didn't have $1,000?
I didn't have it to give to him. You know, so I politely got my behind up. What they do to...
Oh yeah, this is the famous, magical, supernatural church finger.
I got my, I disappeared. My big behind stood right behind this finger and walked up out of that church. I ain't been back to that church since.
Right.
And that's what the prosperity preaching. Steph, I got a video I want to cue up.
It is dangerous.
Have you heard of Dr. Umar?
Yes, Johnson?
Yes. Dr. Umar Johnson. So there's a clip of him saying something that I wholeheartedly agree with, and I want to bring it up. But that prosperity preaching and teaching
is dangerous.
Is so dangerous when you got the reign, you first lady.
And I'm right there with you.
First lady
I'm
sitting
right there
here
with you.
in her hat. I know for a fact $100 and $200. Them church
St.
goods.
John outfit,
Man, listen,
Gucci, and
I
so forth.
know.
Like, I get it. I get it.
What's up, K Slim? Thank you for tuning in. Papano in the building. So I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
The prosperity, preaching and teaching, but the community around you is in slum and blight. When I see a church growing and thriving, but the community around you is declining in its health and its financial status, then you are part of the problem. And I see that from, you know, not a personal standpoint. I'm saying the institution that you're running is
and I know exactly what you're
creating
referring to.
this environment, and it's thriving off of keeping this community this way.
Yeah.
I don't make it be about, you know, religion. It's not about God with me at that point. Like when we talk about the church, we're not talking about God, because those of us who have left the church, we ain't leave God. We got closer, because now we ain't got no middle person. You know?
So like, I do want to jump in and just say something, that there are absolutely bad examples in every field,
of course,
industry, and faith. I am not a proponent of a prosperity gospel, which is a gospel that everybody's going to be rich, everybody's going to be wealthy. And I think as a pastor and as church leaders, we have a responsibility to model decency and modesty. That is my personal belief. Can I go purchase a different kind of car that I have right now? That I absolutely can, and do it without church money. But the reality is, when you look at black churches in particular, over 60% of black churches have pastors that are not on salary. So that argument that the majority of pastors are fleecing the sheep statistically cannot be right. Now, for the ones that are, you know, I think God is going to get them. But I also think that church people need to also read their Bible, so that they can stop endorsing things that are not of God either. When you know the truth, you won't follow foolishness. And if you keep showing up to a place where it's all about money, and you see some of these stereotype things where it's only the leader at the top, is it church or is it a spiritual pyramid scheme? That is something that you have to decipher when you get a true relationship with the scriptures and God, and not just with a man.
Now, you know, I think also too, a lot of people with leaving the church and have embraced and opened up their mind to spirituality. And with spirituality, I'm gonna tell you, I heard this. I do yoga, right? I was told yoga is demonic by a church person, right? And I was like, wait.
It's a lot of stuff that we said out of ignorance was demonic.
And the benefits of yoga.
Money used to be demonic.
And then.
And if you had too much of it, you must be in sin.
So it's a lot of these things that, you know, people have opened up to enhance their quality of life and find purpose in life. You know, because I honestly believe in order for you to know your purpose in life, you got to know God. And whoever, whatever, however, what you call them, don't even matter. I call my mama Mama. Some people call her Mary, Charlotte, and depending on what, if she mad, she Hail Mary. Either way, you have to have that relationship spiritually. The people who are leaving the church, they are not leaving God. And I think because, you know, there's an attack on that, it further creates division for us. And it's how do you think we bring some of those people together, bring people together in a way that, you know, God I think would want us to be together, regardless of your denomination and what you believe. You're human.
I don't think that the church, one, that it absolutely has the right to teach and believe whatever it believes that its doctrines and its tenets of faith is. But as Christians, and especially as a Christian leader, we have a responsibility to unify and help heal a community. And many times that's not only going to happen with Christians.
Yeah.
All of us get up every day, and regardless of what your faith bent is, you work and you play around people that may not necessarily believe what you believe, but yet you can still come together and move an agenda. When we think of one of our chief civil rights leaders, Dr. Martin Luther King, when you look at some of those marches and protests, you don't see all black men clergy on the front line, but you see others. You see priests, and you see, you know, all types of faith and non-faith.
Yeah, and non-faith.
You see heterosexual and homosexual.
Yeah.
You won't see criminal and those that have never been incarcerated, all walking and moving toward the same purpose, but all led by a Christian preacher. Because he understood that his assignment to unify and heal wasn't limited to the church.
Right, right. No, and I'm glad you brought up Dr. King, because my next question for you is, what is the black church role in the community moving forward in the 21st century, post Dr. King, Medgar Evers, Malcolm X?
Yeah.
What is the role?
I answered some of that, I think, earlier.
I think you did too.
But I will repeat some of it, is that I do think that the church's role is to help facilitate healing and unity throughout the community. Secondly, specifically in the black community, is that we got to grow beyond, and again, that I'm challenged as a pastor myself, we have to grow beyond simply teaching doctrine to, we have to also teach people economics. We got to teach more of our people how to build generational wealth. We got to teach more of our people how to win in this thing called life. And it can't only be in the heavens, in the spiritual, in the afterlife, but it has to be in the present. And then utilize our power, our influence to help pull the next generation up as well.
Yeah, I like that. And I hope, I know, you spoke about being that facilitator, and I can speak to it. You invited me to a meeting I wasn't supposed to be in. I wasn't supposed to be in. Y'all, let me tell you, he's sitting right here, so I ain't telling y'all nothing that ain't public information, but he called me, he's like, Serica, listen, it's a meeting. This was BSO gonna go meet with the pastors. Now, you aren't supposed to be at this meeting, because this is just a meeting for the pastors now. But I feel like, I know you're on it about, police brutality and how polices interact with our community. I think you should be at this meeting, so I'm just letting you know. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, pull up, because I'm always ready to pull up. I don't care who in there. Let me pull up, right? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at me with my Don King going on.
You still, and I like that for you. You rock that real well,
Wow. Wait, what is this, 2021?
It came up in my stories. I think it was before 2021, because this was when they were opening the Blanche Ely Museum.
Yeah,
so
this was before.
Yeah, I think it was before that. But yeah, you invited me to that meeting. I went to that meeting, and boy, look at him.
All eyes on you.
All eyes was on me, and I made
What is she doing now?
Yeah, I made sure I put on the show, because that's what you invited me for, right? I didn't want to disappoint you. I made sure I put on the show, right?
I like doing what John Lewis called starting good trouble.
Oh yeah, I'm for it too.
So this was a meeting with the sheriff, right?
With his
his top brass.
His top brass, yeah.
And this was a meeting that was specifically about violence and gun violence here in our city, and some of the stuff that they was talking about. And I love my brothers and some of my sisters that are of the clergy, but let's really be honest, we ain't on the street like that. So, them coming to tell us about all of the violence and the crime that's happening, and that's great. And we will pray, and we will tell our parishioners, but why we don't have people that got their ear and feet closer to the ground? That's why I called you.
Yeah.
And it was to start some good trouble, but to also help get the message out about how much is happening in our community that I didn't know. When they talked about the number of gunshots.
Yeah, shot spotter and all of that. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And, you know, and the thing is, what I will say from that meeting, what happened from that meeting is more law enforcement knew my name.
Yes.
I don't really, we ain't really got a good, you know.
Well, that's
you
either
know,
plus or minus.
Yeah, like
I don't know.
You know, I be walking in the place, they be like, "Hey, Sarah," and I'm like, "You know me? I ain't got no warrant or nothing." Like what? How, like,
yeah.
I'm, you know, Parkway East.
Yes.
You know, that's my being in Pompano. I didn't have a trust with law enforcement, and still don't.
Yeah.
Still don't. But I am working on it, and with the ones that are working on it with me.
Yeah.
So I'm not speaking to the institution and all. No, there are certain ones that I know if I call and say, "Hey, I need to know what's going on with this and this," and I'm getting response.
Have you ever got like privilege now with BSO?
No.
Like, have you ever kind of got pulled over and said, "Hey, that I'm Serica"?
No.
And they let you go?
Heck no.
No.
Heck no. Like, I be dodging them. Man, look, because I had a, you know, doing my struggle time, I had a good minute here. I was driving around. You'd have thought I was trafficking the way I was moving around. I ain't had my tags and that and everything. I was like, no.
You only drive.
I was dodging them. I was dodging them. No, I haven't. But, and I say this, and I want to make sure my community knows this. I cannot personally say that I've ever had an interaction with Broward Sheriff Office, and in my life, maybe once with the law enforcement where it was a bad interaction. I've had multiple interactions, but maybe once, and it was not BSO. So when I'm speaking about how law enforcement show up in our community and what they do, I'm not talking about what they do to me.
Right.
I'm talking about what they do to the people
To others.
around in this community and what I see. So it's not affecting me personally. And I think people don't, you know, really get that when we talk about what activisms do. Partner.
Most of our first fixations of the police come from other people's encounters with them. I didn't like the police because of the way they handled Uncle Darryl.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what Uncle Darryl had did for them to handle him like that.
Yeah.
But every time I saw him, I was upset because of how they handled Uncle Darryl.
Yeah.
I grew up with a generation of people that all of it, you know, didn't like the police because of somebody else's interaction with them.
Right.
I happen to be raised by one.
Yeah.
I love them to death. You know what I mean? Like, but I've also had my encounters that have been both good and bad. You know.
Yeah.
And I know a group or generation of people that just how we saw them engage with our family and what we heard people in our family say about them kind of determined how we felt about them.
Yeah. Partner. So it's $1 Million Monday, right?
It's just $1 Million Monday.
It's $1 Million Monday, and you know, you get up here and you make sure you let the people know what we should be talking about on this $1 Million Monday. So what you got for them?
Put it on paper.
Put it on paper. Elaborate that for me.
We have become a visual society. We got to see it to believe it.
Yeah.
So now, if we're trying to be millionaires, you got to see it to achieve it. Whatever it is that you think you want to do, put it on paper. Write it down. You know, we hung all the kids' stuff up on the refrigerator. Put it on the refrigerator. Put it somewhere in the house that you got to see it every day.
Right.
So that eventually, when you look at it, you can say, "Man, I'm already finished with this."
Yeah. You're going to checking it out.
Next step
Yeah.
on paper.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's all. I mean, like, man, I have sat in those circles and watched people that already know got millions ask somebody else to go, hey man, go get me a sheet of paper and a pen.
Mm-hmm.
But we got all these notepads in our phones, we got all these memo things we can put on our phones, our iPads, our tablets. But you'll tap that iPad, that tablet, or that cell phone and go to Facebook before you go to that notepad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you write it down, some of us, ain't been writing for a while, so we can't even write in cursive no more.
Yeah. My cursive is very good.
Do they still teach that?
I don't think they teach that.
I might be speaking from experience, man. If you get it and you write it down, you're less likely to throw away that paper off the refrigerator than you are to not tap that notepad in your iPhone or whatever, what have you. So put it on paper.
Yeah.
If you're gonna say it, you speak. Then you're going to speak it into existence and not get yourself visually where you can prepare yourself to do what it is. Me, partner, I'm 30, 60, 90. In 30 days, we should be here. 60 days, we should be here. 90 days, we should be here. If I'm not where I'm supposed to be in 90 days, what did I do inside that 30 and 60 days that prevented me from being where I need to be by the 90 days, by the end of the 90 days? So today, put it on paper. I don't care if you making freeze cups.
Yeah.
Write down the flavors you ain't never heard of before.
Right.
Mix the blue cherry strawberry or something.
Yeah.
Write it down though, so when you get ready to get started, you got direction already.
I got you. Yeah. Well,
there you go.
I got this one for you. Partner. And this, I'm gonna actually get this one back to you because you gave it to me. I before the E.
Ooh, intelligence over emotions.
I before the E.
Yeah.
We gotta move with intelligence and hold our emotions for when you get home.
That's it.
Don't you give your emotions to the people who care about you. I don't know y'all. We talking business. We talking business. Is this the intelligent thing to do? Am I being logical? Does this make sense in all of the sense? Does it make all of them? Mm-hmm. All three of them. Since my grandparents did the bean picking, how many cents did them beans cost and how much did they put in? And, common sense tells me that, there's a debt to be paid. Mm-hmm. And it ain't by us. So I would say that I definitely appreciate you, partner. Pastor Rich, thank you for joining. I had a couple more questions with him, but I think we might need to get this a part 2 going on because the Black church is such a staple in our community. Is not a one-time conversation. I think we need to keep conversations like this.
Hey, look, and I like talking to Rich outside his office, so y'all make sure next time y'all get.
Next time we'll have this in the church.
Yeah. Wait a minute now.
I do my church in the front of the church, and then I consecrate the car and I go on inside.
Paul, I appreciate you for tapping in, checking in with the people. Appreciate you. You got anything coming up?
Actually, is it this weekend? I got the Sis Trunk Historical Festival that I'm doing, and I'm actually being honored by Mayor Diane Cavallo in Miami for one of the most successful Black men in radio.
Wow. Yo, because you is
#1
Congrats.
for 38 months. So for 38 months, ain't nobody beat me.
Wow.
Congratulations.
I'm going to be honored with that. Outside of that, it's the regular, man. We're going to keep it moving, do something different. That's what we need everybody to do something different.
Yeah.
Do something different.
So, partner, before on your way out, I want Steph to play this video of Dr. Umar, what he said. And, Dr. Umar Johnson, a broken clock right twice a day.
Mm-hmm.
Twice
a day.
It's right twice a day.
So we just going to hear what he got to say. And partner, if you got anything to add to it. But I want to make sure I put this, because we got the good pastor here.
Okay.
All right.
Let's see what he's talking about.
They don't care about black folks. They ain't about to come in for Mega church don't care about black folks. My problem with black religion is threefold. You take 3 things from black people that we can't afford to waste and can't never get back. Number 1 is money. You take too much resources. Time. Every black church should have 3 institutions. You should have a school for our kids, a bank to invest in our people, and you should have a community garden to feed our people good food. Every church should have those three. If you are bringing in at least $250,000 a year in tithes and you ain't got a school, a bank, and a garden, you a goddamn fraud. I don't care who you are. Remember what I said, 250K. If you less than 250K, you should still be doing something, but I'm not gonna hold you to the same standard. But if you $250,000 that you can depend on annually, you should have some institutions for the people. So number one, they take too much money. Number two, Joe, they take too much of our time. You don't get your time back. You can make that money back. You can't make your time back. Bible study, Sunday service, Sunday morning service, Sunday night service, gospel choir, Thursday. Why are you taking all this time and you're not giving us nothing? And the third thing that they take from us that we can't afford to waste and have misused is hope. The black church abuses our hope by constantly making you feel Jesus or Muhammad going to come and make everything right when the time is right. And that's why black religion plays right into the hand of the white power structure. You know why? Because it has black people thinking they don't have to do shit but wait and pray in order to change their circumstances. And that's why Napoleon Bonaparte, and I'm a fan of Napoleon Bonaparte, Napoleon Bonaparte, the white man's greatest military strategist, said what? Religion is what keeps the poor man from killing the rich one.
Yes, indeed.
No. Religion ain't nothing but mind control. Nobody has ever opened up a church to liberate people. Churches were created to control minds. You can't show me a religion or a religious organization that believes in free thought and liberation of consciousness. Every religion is a mind control institution.
It's not attached to spirituality. That's why I didn't.
That's what he said.
That's a hard one.
I mean, he was going in.
That's
I was like, ooh.
That's a hard one.
It's two words, it's a terminology that describes Dr. Umar Johnson when it comes to what he just said. And it's called church hurt. Somewhere along the line, in his life, he done been hurt at the church. That lady wouldn't move for a person, let him sit like that. That usher made him spit that gum out on his way in. And he church hurt.
Yeah. Now,
it's easy to find so many different theologies or stuff that he's going to compare statistics in order to make what he says sound exactly what it is. And I'm not saying all over this wrong, but what I'm saying is he's not speaking from a place of endearment.
Right.
He's speaking from a place of pain.
And I sense that same thing too, but I don't want to sound biased, and I want to speak to some of what I deem positive out of what he said. And there are some things that I agree with. When a church has rose to a certain level that they are amassing resources, people, power, and influence, that they absolutely have a responsibility to be given back to their community. But that I don't know if it's necessarily right to say that a church does not foster liberation of consciousness.
Right.
Any faith is going to teach their faith. And if that's contrary to a quote unquote liberation of consciousness, I don't think that's the church fault. That's the individual may not want to go to a church that only teaches one thing. You know, so I don't see that.
What's the cash app? Let me just go and say.
No, seriously. Listen, even in the church, when you read the book of Revelations, there are 7 different churches that had 7 different things going on, and all 7 of them, well, maybe 6 or 7 was on God's nerves, but yet they were all churches. So I don't think that it is necessarily an indictment on the church. It is a description of a church. Whether it was a mosque. When you go to a mosque, you're not going there for liberation of consciousness. You are going there to learn the tenets of that faith. So that's not that to me is off, but definitely a church that is amassing resources, whether that is finances or people capital and influence, should be doing something to improve their church. And lastly, I'm a pastor, and I don't want to be in church 3-4 times a week. Amen to that.
Amen.
Let them people go home. Let them raise their children. Let them build their business. They can pray at home too, but being in church 3, 4, 5 times a week, that's a little bit too much.
Corey, shout out to Corey Thompson joining us. He say he agree with Dr. Umar Johnson.
What's up, Corey?
I'm with you when you're right. I'm with you when you're right. I do sense there's hurt, and what people what I want to say about church hurt, when we say people have church hurt, that is not when people have church hurt and we say that's church hurt, that does not mean that that is not valid. Does not mean that that's church hurt, because then you have to create, if you say it's church hurt, then you also have to create space for them to talk about what hurt you from that church.
Right.
And if what hurt you from that church may be something the church swept under the rug, or something that the church kicked you out for, they may have covered it up.
Yeah.
You know, whatever it is, we don't know. We can
deal with it, so you can't heal from it.
Yeah, you didn't deal with it.
It has to be dealt with.
Yeah, so you know you're carrying it. You're carrying that hurt, and the church is continuously moving on, thriving, doing whatever they're doing, but you still hurt. You know, who then mediates the reconciliation of the people who've been hurt from the church with the church?
Yeah.
You know, but so that's it. You know, I can't say that I have church hurt. I don't have church hurt. I just don't like the prosperity preaching, and I still will every now and then, if I feel like going and fellowshipping, I will go to a church. And I'm not one church. You know, that's just that one church. I ain't going back to that $1,000 church. I'm not going back to that church now.
Give them another chance.
No.
Maybe they got a new pastor now.
No, that pastor's still there. That pastor is still there, and the church is bigger.
Maybe they got a new pastor.
The pastor's still there, and the church is bigger. It went from a storefront to now they got a building. You know, so they are there, and that's great, because that means what is he doing? What he's doing is helping those people. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
It's just not for me. You know, I used to like oysters, raw oysters. Everybody don't like oysters. That don't mean because I like oysters something wrong and you don't. You know, we got to let that go. Okay, but listen.
The question: Does that church have a school? Do they maybe do other things in the community? Do they do feedings? Do they shelter?
Yeah, they do.
Do they do
feedings.
benevolent things?
I know they do feedings. I don't know to what degree, because I haven't kept up with what they're doing, so I don't want to speak to what they're not. I know they do some things, you know.
And I'm just trying to make a case that when they get these $1,000 seeds, that somehow that's going back out to the community. You know, like
that was a specific
you won't know me gonna be pro church.
They asked specifically for this seed to get the pastor the Bentley he always wanted. That was not a seed to be sown to the church. This is what that seed was for. I remember that. And can't nobody tell me, because that I know exactly what I heard. I know exactly what I heard.
Who got that Bentley?
I don't know if you got praise.
I'm just saying, I ain't gonna say the name, but you're welcome to come sit on the couch and have the conversation with me if you know who you is. Come and talk to me. I'm open to talk to anybody, you know, and that's what this Bottom Up podcast is about. Let's talk about tithes. Let's talk about tithes. Pastor?
Yes.
You want to talk about tithes? I don't get tithes. Tithes.
I don't receive tithes personally at my church. All tithes goes to the church. They don't go to me. Personally, I am not on a salary, but I do believe, according to the scripture of churches that believe it and teach it, that tithes are for the upkeep of both the priests and the house of God. So if you go to a church that teaches tithes, this is what I tell people, which, you know, this is probably why I don't have a mega church. If you don't believe what we're teaching, you should probably go to a place that you feel more comfortable and believe. Now, any church that believes anything should also be willing to explain that to their parishioners as well. But if you are challenged with tithing, I would say first consult the scriptures, pray about it, and, you know, give it a try. It works for me, and it works for those at our church. We tithe. And I teach it, and I believe it, and it works for me without any pyramid scheme.
Gotcha. Well, we're not collecting
tithe to P3 Church.
Or you heard that was for you. You know, send your tithes.
Deacon Thompson.
Listen, we're going to go ahead and pay our tithes right now with the Bottom Up podcast to let you guys know businesses. We are opening up for businesses to promote with us for the Bottom Up podcast. And your music, you know, I'm a big music lover of the culture. So, you know, any upcoming artists, y'all want to get y'all music heard and be a part of our platform, you know, please send it to us. Steph, make sure you put that up so they can know if they want to promote their brand and business, get that going. But listen, I want to thank you guys for joining us. These church announcements are real. And we thank y'all for tuning in to learn about all things the Bottom Up Podcast. As we go out, I want to thank Pastor Rich for joining me. We're going to do this again. Maybe get a part 2. Maybe you can bring some of the other pastors in. But I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. Bottom Up Podcast, episode 36.
This was good. Thank you.
Yes. Yes.